Hello, and welcome to another video. This video, we're going to have 3 different games of Arsenal Mercenary. Excuse me for this, being as long as it is. I don't feel like any of these games are like too crazy, but I figured it'd be good to showcase you guys just how strong Mercenary still is if played correctly. I don't even play it perfectly, but generally I don't even remember the last time I played this outside of the one time that I did a video. I played that like 3 times and just took one of the games and uploaded it. I used to like Arsenal a lot in 4.0, but ever since they got the 5.0 treatment, I've never really cared for it. And in this situation, since I don't have Jet out, Rage Check is very sticky, if that makes sense. So that means he's able to stay on me like really well. So generally, for the most part, it's going through my defenses. You always want to use Energy Shield first because you get CDR for Energy Shield. And then if you like really have to and you don't want to use Colto, Reflect is probably a better choice. So usually Energy Shield, Reflect, and then Colto last. Usually by then you get through all those. You should have Shield back up if you're not getting completely annihilated. Sometimes that'll just be the case. Mercenaries are very easy targets for kind of bullying, I guess you could say, because they're not incredibly mobile and they're kind of damage sponge kind of class outside of having energy shield. They are heavy armor at the very least, and that helps, but a lot of classes do have armor pin built into them, so it doesn't matter as much, because when you get damage reduction from heavy armor, it can be penetrated with armor penetration. In a situation like that, I'm just trying to heal myself. This guy, I know he's an Arsenal mercenary, so it means that as long as he's not about to do his big burst on me, I'm able to like support and heal through it, so I don't have to die here. These healers aren't too great, but I mean, I commend them for, helping me. If they weren't helping me, I would definitely be dead already. But because they've helped me just enough, I'm able to survive, and we can kind of start pushing back towards mid. I actually think we end up losing this, and it's just because our team's just holy English. We're just like not prepared, I guess you could say. I cannot English today apparently, but we're not prepared for what happened to us, I guess you could say. And for the most part, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you'll just be in matches that it's just really not winnable. I know a lot of people get really mad when they start losing or somebody's doing something quote unquote dumb to them. A lot of people that are very vocal about that kind of stuff usually don't have much game sense, let alone do anything in game. They're not trying to bash people, and they just want to play objectives and do that stuff. It's just, when you're sitting there complaining online to, 7 different players, they're all on the same team, by the way, team, emphasis on team. You're not really helping anybody. You should definitely have your fun where you can get it. Let's say you're playing a match and it's ultimately you're just going to lose. If you really do want to be vocal about something, you should probably ask like, hey, you guys want to group up and like just kill stuff, hit the M button, go find your allies, go hang out with them. Guarantee you'll probably have a lot more fun, especially if you make a little kill squad and you run around. You'll probably have a lot more fun. Hell, you'd probably even turn the tides. A lot of people just, I guess, just give up, and you can't blame them, but it's a shame to see because you didn't get to like see this too often before. Obviously people could leave war zones with no penalty, but for the most part people wouldn't. They'd be okay to come mid. Even if they're getting farmed, they'd be okay to just come mid over and over and fight, because they enjoyed the competition. They enjoyed PvP. They were there for PvP. They weren't there for rewards. They were there for their conquest. They weren't there for any of these new things. They were just there to play PvP. But anyway, to do a quick rundown, or I said I don't even need to do a quick rundown because we have like 25 more minutes. A rundown of like how Arsenal is played. So for example, it's very straightforward, simply burning bright, not primed ignition. I'm trying to get Tracer on the target, and then my Blazing Bolts increases the damage of my priming shot, and taking the talent increases that ability's damage even further. Excuse me. So with that combination, after Blazing Bolts, I'll have 4 stacks. I can go into Prime Shot, or Priming Shot, and it will hit really hard. Usually if the target is stunned, that means I'll never miss that ability. So it's going to hit really hard, especially if I can get my relics to line up and everything. It is a devastating ability. And then outside of that, you have Heat Seekers, which is nice, but Heat Seekers is not very consistent in its damage because it used to be the auto crit and now it's not the auto crit anymore. So when it doesn't crit, its damage is not very good. When it does crit, its damage is really good. So it's inconsistent at best. We definitely should get something to help with the critical chance for Heat Seeker. There's talent that increases the crit hit chance, which I am taking that, or the crit hit damage. I can't remember which one it is. But it's very good for your burst, like consistency with your burst. Highly recommend it. However, the AoE Heat Seeker is also pretty cool, but when it only hits like 20k, there's no point of whether it's AoE or not. You're not really hitting that hard. And then we have Rail Shot. So Rail Shot has a damage amplification, so when it shines, you're at maximum damage amplification for the ability. It has Armor Pin. It reaches up to 100% Armor Pin, by the way. And to stack that damage on top of the increased damage that you already get and the 100% Armor Pin, the ability is very nasty, especially on heavy armor targets, because you're able to hit them for pretty much raw damage. Like, they're not able to mitigate it unless they have a defensive going or damage reduction. And this is a perfect example here. He's a Juggernaut, heavy armor, doesn't matter. I'm able to shred him consistently. It's unfortunate for that guy because he's like got no cooldowns. He was just mid, and I happen to have net and everything ready to go. So don't have anything better to do, so I'm gonna kill him. Feel bad for him, but hey, that's it's kind of why mercs are so hated. I'll definitely say that. Definitely a reason they're hated. Especially if they, know how to play pretty well, because they get really annoying really quickly. Blazing Bolts slow is incredibly impactful and super strong. So outside of the Prime Shot burst damage, the Rail Shot burst damage, and the Heat Seeker burst damage, you have your sustained damage, and your sustained damage will be Tracer. So you're spamming Tracer, and it will reset your Blazing Bolts. And we used to have a talent that would give you empowered Blazing Bolts, which would increase the damage of Blazing Bolts, and it was very good. I wish we still had that. That would be incredible. Fortunately, we don't have that anymore, so it's not that great. It's not as good as it used to be. If they did gain that back, that would be cool, because we still have the remnants of that old passive. So when you use Sweeping Gunfire, you can reproc your Blazing Bolts. So if you don't have time for another Tracer and you can clip your Sweeping Gunfire very fast, you can get a reset for your Blazing Bolts into that, which ultimately would be less heat. However, arguably whether it's worth it for damage loss. And in this match, I just kind of I'm like, alright, whatever. I want to hit him. I expect him to move forward or backwards, but he just kept going forward and backwards. So I was like, alright, well, I guess I had to get in position and stop trolling. I didn't really take this game seriously. It was mostly just because I already knew that it was going to be pretty bad. And I wouldn't probably have to apply any effort whatsoever into this match. And that's just kind of how some matches are, unfortunately. Everybody has had games like that. And you'll see the burst like a lot in this match. Like, I'll absolutely nuke people just like I was doing last match, but it's going to be even worse. This guy is a mitigation tank that I'm following right now. I absolutely delete him several times in this video. Even the APPT player was like doing decent amount of damage, but Arsenal completely shreds tanks, especially heavy armor tanks. And even if he pops Power Yield, I still hit him for relatively the same amount that I normally would. His best defensive against me is getting me in the right gas and an energy shield. Everything else is pretty much useless. And the same goes for BT DPS too. so hitting them is fine. I could swap to the other PT, but I'd rather kill the PT DPS because PT DPS are pretty scary. Especially as an Arsenal mercenary, you don't really want to let them just do whatever they want. It's going to take you a little bit to actually kill them. I actually do get a raw shot kill on the assassin as he stealthed out. If he just laid there dead, he's like, okay, travel time of the raw shot just got me killed. I feel bad for him because he stealthed out and he wanted to get regen, but I denied that, and that's not going to be the only time I deny that in this video, which is... I don't know how to explain that. It's just old habits. So there's a lot of classes that have a white damage AoE, and it's incredible at getting assassins out of stealth. So for example, Sweeping Slash. Juggernaut used to have Sweeping Slash without having to take it, and you'd use that ability to pull assassins out of stealth relatively easily after they stealth. So you have Mad Dash and Slash, obviously use Slash, and then if you want to take another guess, Mad Dash is also very good. So you get Sweeping Slash, see if you can get them instantly, and if you can get them instantly, you can guess with Mad Dash where they may have gone, and maybe get them with Mad Dash too. Alternatively, the method we have now is AoE taunt into Enrage on tank. That can pull them out, but you have to wait until the Shroud would be necessarily over. However, for DPS, that wouldn't work, but it would put them in combat. So if you actually do taunt them when they're in stealth and they're not like shrouded, it will put them in combat. So that's one thing I think about if you're playing Jug DPS and you try to pull people into combat and you know there's probably a stealther nearby, just throw your AoE taunt out, you'll be able to grab them. They won't reveal themselves, but it'll put them in combat. I believe this power deck we actually had a game against, so the games are out of order. I think we had a Swtor against him first, and then he ends up being on our team, so we just kind of run around killing everybody. So for those interested in like Arsenal, they're like, okay, oh, I'm not doing much damage. Why are you doing so much damage? How are you doing so much damage? Stuff like that. One, uptime. Two, just consistently casting abilities and letting my APM go down. And three, kind of having optimized stats. So my stats are a lot of accuracy because I need accuracy, but also I'm hitting critical DR for the class. And I'm also hitting low alacrity. It's important not to go over critical DR in this class because it has a critical passive, or I guess critical multiplier passive. And when that procs, especially with relics, if you have too much crit, you're going to end up hitting like nothing. Like your chances of critting is actually going to be a lot worse, if that makes any sense. And when your surge, I guess, critical multiplier is too high, you get relative inconsistency, I guess you could say. It's hard to describe. There's like certain classes that don't have the issue as much, and it's mostly just because their abilities don't have such a wide range of damage. So for example, a lot of the abilities on Mercenary, especially Arsenal, have a wide range of damage. So for example, Heat Seeker hitting really low if it doesn't crit, but hits really hard if it does crit. Other abilities that don't really have that issue but have passive surge, or I guess critical multiplier like Fury and Rage Juggernaut, and Engineering, for example, the ability that you're usually hitting is either one, an auto crit guaranteed, either through passives or dominate or many other factors. So the bottom end and the high end of the damage calculation isn't actually as big as Arsenal Mercenaries, for example. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. And then obviously, you know, when you have an auto critical, it's a little bit different. So when you have again, as I said, like an ability that has a high damage range, that's one thing to definitely keep in mind to try to make sure that you don't go into critical DR. And then going into other things outside of having accuracy, I do have a guide on this. build that I am playing. I highly recommend probably checking it out. And definitely really fun to play this, go for the big burst numbers and whatnot. You can go less accuracy than I do in the guide to hit critical DR, which is about 4.6k. Or you can just copy what I have completely, that's totally fine too. Ideally the damage difference between them isn't very much, and also, you know, sometimes the accuracy is just really, really worth it. Unfortunately, this guy actually ends up getting voodoo before he can continue his triple crit window. I should have reflected a little bit sooner, but I'm so greedy about my defenses that I was like, it's whatever. I have a habit of hitting energy shield most of the time. And we end up triple capping here just because these players are just dying too fast. There's no other way to put it. They're not able to deal with the damage, but also at the same time, they're not doing much damage themselves, so therefore, they're kind of getting steamrolled. And also, if you're, I don't know completely how everybody plays, but I assume if any of you guys have the question of how am I not looking at the target and shooting them at the same time? Well, if you keybind strafe left and strafe right, and you use your mouse to basically angle your camera, you're able to walk the opposite direction and still hit the person. Because I'm technically strafing right, left. So I'm able to have a better view of my target, and I'm able to run full speed in the other direction while still hitting them. I have that explained in my UI guide. I definitely recommend checking that out if you're trying to get used to movement and stuff like that. And this is the second time that I end up pulling this guy out still. I feel bad for this, but it's a habit I just can't break. I tried, you know, not doing it as much, but you know, I can't help myself, man. I just, once you get that muscle memory, you instinctively do it. Like self scan on PT. If I actually run self scan, I like instinctively do it. And it's a good muscle memory thing to have, but now that you don't have self scan anymore, I don't do it as much, but if I was to run self scan, you know, usually I'll find myself doing it. It's a very nice thing to have. There's classes like, again, Juggernaut, if they had Secret Slash, they would be able to consistently get things out of combat. Just like Marauder. Marauder's another one that's really good at it. Sniper's also good at it with Suppressive Fire because it's such a huge radius. And I pretty much took no damage in this game because they just got completely rolled. And moving on to the next video, this one's a little bit more interesting. It's against a lot of sorcerers. Sorcerer did just recently get buffed. Kinda, I guess you could say. More so madness, I guess you could say. This guy does his opener into me, and to reflect in the other sorcerer I had put Stormwatch, or I thought put Stormwatch. So I ended up getting just healed to full through his opener, which is great. And from this point on, I'm just going to do the normal parse rotation. This is one thing that you always want to think about when you're doing damage. How do I maximize my damage? The entire time while I'm doing damage is like, okay, what's next? Do I have my stacks for Well Shot? Do I have my auto for Well Shot? Am I fully amped up for my, you know, prime shot or priming shot? There we go. And do I have the armor debuff from Tracer on them? I'm always thinking about these things when I'm about to go for a large hit on somebody, but also at the same time, when they're on cooldown, okay, what am I spamming? Usually Tracer, it's blazing, Tracer, it's blazing, just over and over and over. And there's not really any reason to use the other ones. There is Death from Above, which is good in AoE, but I don't really have many situations where it's worth using. So satisfying seeing the rush shot kills, just being able to execute people with light damage to just, I love it. Looks so good. Spec ends up being pretty satisfying when you do get white damage kills, but it does leave it prone to defense chance builds like I would say Sorcerer plus Predation, very annoying. So usually, especially on this class, I'll make it a habit of killing the Marauders, especially Marauders that are using their Predation on cooldown, because I want that Predation gone. dealing with sorcerer or predation is not a fun time. Unfortunately, I get knocked back here and he face walks away, so we have a long run to get back into combat, which is okay for the most part. I haven't really had to expend any other defenses, and I just got my reflect back, so I'm completely fine pushing up. And sure enough, as soon as I do, the Marauder starts hitting me, but he gives up pretty quickly. Also notice, I don't know if you guys will pay attention, but this Dreadmaster guy, this Pyro PT, Savari, I don't know how to pronounce that, kind of just stands there every single time. You'll see him in a Defender round. Kind of feel bad telling it's a Pyro show, which I will eventually later. I assume that these guys are just a bunch of PvEers trying out PvE for Conquest or something. Because they all seem to be in the same guild and or, you know, wearing similar outfits. Always thought the crest from is it Hateful? I thought it looked pretty cool. I really liked Oricon and the Dreadmaster like story. It's actually one of the stories I actually did. Enjoyed it. I wish they expanded upon that and expanded upon Oricon, because it's just a cool planet. I feel like there should be more to it. I like the lore and stuff, like artifacts and old civilizations and stuff like that. I find that stuff to be really interesting. Which, by the way, I've never watched any of the Star Wars movies. I think I saw the one of the newer ones, like in theater, or Han died or whatever, and like that's it. I don't really consider that. I had no idea what was going on, so I didn't really consider watching it. But if I was to watch it, probably like the Anakin ones. Obviously, I've seen memes and clips from it. Haven't watched it yet. Been thinking about watching it. Not sure, but definitely if I do, I'm gonna watch the first three because I'm way more interested in like can't pronounce his name right now. I don't think so. Kugan, I think. Sorry if I'm butchering that. I don't want crucified for saying that wrong, but I found him to be really cool, and like the whole Grey Jedi kind of aspect is very cool to me. Never really played KOTOR. Watch my brother play KOTOR though. That's what originally got me into Star Wars. And I never would have played this game if my brother didn't say, "Hey, why don't you play this with me? It's a game that we can play together. It's got Star Wars and stuff." And I was like, "All right, that sounds cool." I downloaded it. We played, and I thought the story was really cool. I got hooked onto the game. And at the time, I was playing League of Legends, you know, an alpha and beta, going into, you know, season 1, 2, and 3. It's around that time somewhere, late 2012, I think. It was really cool. Didn't really start playing until I essentially got really bored of League of Legends, and I started playing this game. And around the same time, RuneScape. I played a lot of RuneScape. It's originally where I came from. I played a little Guild Wars 2 also. My first stream ever was on Guild Wars 2. I do have the name Seas Faith over there. I have the name Seas War, Seas Faith in pretty much every game I play too, by the way. So the Seas Faith on Old School RuneScape is me. It's my account. I don't really play it anymore. So I guess I have some cool stuff, but I enjoyed that game, and you know, enjoyed League for a little bit. Enjoyed other games. I like to play. I guess pretty much everything, or at least try it. Usually anything with decent PvP or PvP that interests me, I'll definitely play. But there's been other games too that I've tried that I just don't like. Lost Ark would be one of them. I don't even know why I bothered to play that game at all. I think I'm just, I wouldn't say I'm competitive. I like the chaos in games. And if there was a FFA mode for PvP, I'm probably playing it. Especially if there was one in Star Wars, I'd be playing it, but obviously stealth would probably make it really toxic. You'd see somebody get low, 5 stealths suddenly appear, open up on each other. And then another 5 stealthers are going to open up on the people that just opened up on somebody else. That would be so dumb to watch. But FFA style, especially in like Destiny 2 and other games that I've played, is usually my preferred playstyle. For some reason, I find myself at peace and at calm in the chaos of that, if that makes sense. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but I don't know. It seems to like click with my brain and everything just slows down. Because normally, I'm sitting here thinking like 1,000 words probably per minute. My brain goes everywhere. I do my best not to look at things that are going to make my attention span even worse, because it is not great, but it's not terrible. Like, I know shorts and like TikToks and stuff like that would just make it even worse. So I definitely avoid that stuff like the plague. But when it comes to like something like this, something that can basically get your attention and suck you in and immerse you is really good. It's your brain. Your brain being mentally engaged is obviously a good thing, but also at the same time it's healthy for you, especially for memory and longevity of being able to keep memories. One thing that happens to people as you get older, you know, one of the symptoms, or not one of the symptoms, but one of the things that will lead to having like Alzheimer's and stuff is not mentally engaging yourself with anything. You're just sitting on the couch all the time watching TV and stuff like that, not actually engaging your brain or thinking. You'll have memory problems, and you'll probably be more prone to something like Alzheimer's and other terrible things. And I don't want to go down that path of like talking about really dark stuff, but definitely mental engagement is really important. So I highly recommend, you know, whatever you end up enjoying in life, definitely go out there and do it. I always enjoy seeing primary shot hit, but when it doesn't, I'm not really sure what causes it. It still looks like a critical number, but it's not a crit, if that makes sense. Like when it doesn't crit, it feels like a deflated balloon. As you know, it could have like, you know, absolutely deleted their health bar. And one cool thing about Arsenal, I'm sure most people already know, obviously there's travel time. And with travel time, you have the ability to stack some of the damage together. And if you have a lot of travel time, so if somebody is far away, they can die, but their body will still be standing up for a while. So if you ever seen that in PvP, that's because travel time has already killed them, but the ability hasn't made it to them yet. So you can basically stack some damage slats together. So for example, priming shot and rail shot can kind of get stacked together, which is really cool to see, especially with heat seekers. So you can kind of like stack all three of them and fuse them in succession, which I think looks pretty cool. Ultimately, there's obviously better classes and specs that can do that a lot better than what Arsenal can do. But nonetheless, it's always nice seeing. I'll say this. I would say this is probably one of the better matchups you can get as Arsenal, because dealing with PTs is not that bad if they're not that great. And also dealing with sorcerers is not that bad if they're not that great. So I had a double whammy here of a pretty good composition to actually face. There's one APPT, the other one's pyro. Pyro doesn't scare me at all, and the one APPT means that I can use my reflect for him every single time. I can always use my net on him too. But thankfully he doesn't try to train me for the entire game, which I thank him for that. So that allows me to play, and the sorcerers, there's not really any death brand slowing me down. If there was a death brand, I would be in much more danger, but since there's not a death brand, I can kind of go toe-to-toe with the sorcerers, which feels good. And it also gives me a ton of CDR for my energy shield, so I have my energy shield up a lot more often. We're coming to an end of this video. It's pretty long. Definitely not planning on doing another one of these. I just figured, you know, get you guys some Arsenal gameplay. Let you guys see, you know, that's really not that bad. It's only going to be bad, I guess you can say, when you're playing against classes that are really good at shutting your team down and shutting you down. So for example, if I was to be tunneled, obviously my damage would be a lot worse, but I wouldn't be able to sponge quite a bit of damage. The issue there is that someone usually on your team is always going to take the L, whether it's your front line, whether it's somebody else, and you need to capitalize on it. And if you're a class that's got range, then you have a rotation that's complicated, you don't know your rotation, you don't know your burst, you don't know anything about doing damage, you're only hurting your team. And I'm not saying this is like a elitist kind of thing, I'm saying that you should try to figure out how to do damage and do more damage and understand the rotation slash parsing. A lot of people will say, oh, you don't need a PvE rotation for PvP. Yes, priority system is more important, but also at the same time, there are situations, especially as a range player, that you can parse on somebody, and it is very important to understand your rotation in the now and be able to maximize your damage in the time window that you have. So definitely keep that in mind. And also, this class is not terrible. It's been double buffed now, but I still think auto crit for Heat Seeker should come back. Other than that, if you guys have any questions about Arsenal or anything else, feel free to leave them in the comments.